My parents did. Oh, my
Edge.
Edge. Oh,
They're
yeah.
like- Okay, everything. You're
Like all over.
You're
I hope
you're-
we're live streaming that.
That's the guy who started the fire.
That was Phil Champagne, the executive.
Like,
Ruben. Okay, you're
It
was.
Can you hear us?
Yes. Great. Okay. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. So we acknowledge that the local Memorial Student Union operates on the traditional territory of the neutral and Anishinaabe and Indigenous people. Regrets for this evening is Director Nakshatra and Director Runket, sorry. And then Director Rubinat is absent. Is there any conflicts of interest to declare? All right. We don't have the agenda, so just the timing on the agenda was wrong, so we have to have a motion to amend it to the proper time, right here. Okay. So can I get a motion that the board of directors amend the agenda, so it's within the 7 p.m. timeframe instead of 6, motion by Director Solo, seconded by Director St. George. Is there any discussion on the matter? Moving to voting, all those opposed? All those abstaining? And all those in favor? Vote passes 0-9. And then we can now adopt the new amendment agenda. So can I get a motion that the board of directors adopt the amended agenda? Motion by Vice Chair Hatzimichael, seconded by Director Laheka. Any discussion on the matter? All right, we'll go to voting. All those opposed? All those abstaining? And all those in favor? Vote passes 0-9. Moving on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion that the board of directors adopt the consent agenda, including BM2A, BND2A, BND2B, BND2C, BND2D1, and BND2D2. Motion by Vice Chair Hatzimichael, seconded by Director John. Any discussion on the matter? No. All right, we can move into voting. All those opposed? All those abstaining? And all those in favor? Vote passes 0-9. Moving on to the meeting minutes approval. For January 27, 2025. Can I get a motion that the board of directors approve the January 27, 2025 meeting minutes? Motion by Director Ejon, seconded by Director St. George. Any discussion on the matter? No. All right, moving on to voting. All those opposed? All those abstaining? And all those in favor? Vote passes 0-9. All right. Now, I want to comments for myself. Let's just say sign up for boothing for February 25th. I think Director Zoll sent an email. So if you're available on Tuesday, it's our motion for Tuesday. That's it for me. So we can move on to comments from Ben.
Awesome. Good to see everyone. Right now, renegotiations for the student affairs or now Conference of Student Services Administrative Agreement are top of mind for both you and I. We had a 2-day retreat 2 weeks ago now with a follow-up meeting with the VP Student Affairs and Provost today to get that up to speed. Focus so far has been expanding the scope of the agreement to include a more broad envelope of student services, while on our end ensuring an ongoing commitment from the institution to fund those services from the base budget, not just from student fees. So there's a reaffirmation today that the hope is to have a final agreement signed by the end of this academic year. So hopefully something to come to you folks for approval by April, but TBD. Work with the Freedom of Expression Task Force continues. Good conversation so far. We've been happy with that group keeping students in the forefront and a lot of the work they're doing. Not a ton of detail to share on that one, but looking like something that will bleed into next year. So will be a transition point for Ryan and I as we get going on stuff. Supporting some work on the university budget as well. Some information for this group. Currently, the projected deficit for 25-26 is somewhere just north of $21 million. So we're working with our partners to try to find some ways we can help bring that down on the institutional side of things. For context, I think last year's was in around 16-17 million. So that carries over with an additional 6 or 7 getting tacked on this year. But working with the Provost Office and the VP Finance from the institution to do some work there. Also working through VP hiring right now for next year, supporting Sarah, our VP Volunteer Operations, and Ryan, the President-elect. I've also started intro and transition meetings with Ryan to get him up to speed on a couple of things over the next few months. So he's been around a lot of last week and most of this week, getting on board with a bunch of things. Obviously, congratulations to him. We haven't said that in the board meeting. I forget when our last one was. We also met with the non-tuition fee protocol committee today. Fee report has largely been approved with a few outstanding items that are going to be followed up on, but nothing major to flag there. The Students' Union sponsored Laurie's Institute for the Study of Public Opinion and Policy Housing Forum next week. I'll be attending as a moderator for a panel, so interested to see how that one goes. Then budget work is well underway with the VPs developing operational budgets for next year, and Gabby and I are meeting to go over the governance budgets later this week as well, and to go over the performance review stuff from the last board meeting as well. That's pretty much it. That was also an info dump, so if people have questions, happy to answer them.
Is there any questions? What are you like speaking on?
So I'm just moderating a panel based on questions that I saw. Most of them were in and around youth engagement with politics and how the housing market's impact on that.
So both myself and Eric are gonna work together this.
Okay, nice.
So.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Ben? All right, we can move on to Bill.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add. Ben's obviously taken up a lot of the information that I would have shared otherwise. I got nothing.
Perfect. All right, we can move on to the fall term financial report.
Hi, everyone. I won't take too much of your time to go over this. Can you hear me okay? Within your package somewhere, you'll find a statement of revenue. It's about 2/3 of the way through your package, I think. So if everyone can refer to that document, and we'll start there. This is our schedule of revenue to the end of December, so period 8. So basically 2/3 of the way through our fiscal year. So our actual revenue in total is 6.121 million. Our budgeted revenue to this point in time was 5.843 million. So we've pulled in about 273,800 more in revenue than what we budgeted for. Largely that comes from the fact that we're extremely conservative when we budget our fees that we receive, and fees are based on student enrollment. So we never want to overestimate how many fees we'll get, because we'd rather be in this position where we have more than what we anticipated versus the other way around. So we always take a very conservative estimate in our in student enrollment, which translates into our fees. So that's the biggest contributor to that. Most everything else is pretty well in line with what we budgeted. You'll notice under services and programming, there's revenue there, and that's related to ticket sales for a week. A bit of an anomaly there, and that was just credited on the expense side, and you'll see that in a minute. So overall, revenue picture looks good this far into the year. If you switch to the next document, which is a statement of expenses for the same period in time to the end of December, you'll see that we have actual expenses of 6.669 million. We budgeted to have 7.616 million in expenses. So we're actually $947,000 less on our expenses to this point in time, which is very good. But you could argue that a lot of that comes from, you'll notice the second line down, health and dental. We'd anticipated usage of the health and dental plan to be much greater than what it is. So while that's good that we're saving money, it also means that the undergraduate population isn't using the student health and dental plan to the extent that we thought they would. So both good and bad news. The other big area where we see a bit of a surplus is in the operation of the Fred Nichols Campus Center. It's about $103,000 to the good to the end of this point, or to the end of December. And that's just based on operating costs being less than what we anticipated. So if we flip to the next document, which is the statement of operations, this is where it pulls the revenue and expenses together. So you'll see revenues of 6.1 million, expenses so far of 6.669. And that puts us in a deficit position of a little over $500,000 at this point in time. Again, that's quite normal for us to be in a deficit position at the end of December. Once we get winter semester fees, they typically arrive late in February. That will push us into a surplus position. So a $500,000 deficit at the end of December is quite normal. And in fact, it's about a little over $1.2 million better than where we thought we'd be at this point in time, basically because of the health and dental issue. And the last document I'll draw your attention to is the statement of financial position, which also is known as the balance sheet. Our balance sheet looks pretty good at this point in time. You'll notice we have lots of cash. A lot of that's held in reserves for specific initiatives. We have accounts receivable, which is money owed to us from various sources. On the liabilities side, you'll see accounts payable of about $308,000. That's money we owe to other people. Deferred revenue, money that we have yet to bring into revenue. Due to campus clubs, that's money that we hold on behalf of all the campus clubs that we have that we potentially owe to them. And our debt component, which continues to draw down smaller and smaller. And in fact, now we're less than $1 million in debt overall. And the high point for us was about a decade ago when we had close to $7 million in debt. So we've gone from 7 million down to about 970,000, which is great news. So I will leave it there for any questions that you might have.
I don't think I guess those. It's pretty straightforward. Looks good. I don't think we did pretty good.
Just for.
Thanks, Chris.
Alright.
Thanks, Chris.
See you tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, have a good rest of your meeting.
That was just because we didn't look at other finance committee.
Yeah.
But another thing that's also good.
Yeah, it's us.
Because we have to also submit a report, in March. So I think maybe we can push this to the next meeting. And then just look at that. Is that good? Have a meeting after March.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right now, it's like March is still unclear. So
Yeah, no,
the
exactly.
time.
We'll look at like politics. All right, let's move on to the student engagement platform.
Tony Massey.
Thanks for allowing me here tonight, and I apologize for how horrible I sound. Living at the infirmary right now, so everybody and their sister's got the flu, it feels like. So I apologize if I sound a little hoarse. Beyond what's in the brief, not really much to give you beyond, the organization has been working with Modern Campus for the last 5 years with their Nest product, and we have seen a few different challenges with our service delivery and with our bugs and whatnot, and a few of the other things that we've seen in there. So as we approach our contract renewal coming up due in this coming November of 2025, we've spent the last probably 6 months doing some extensive evaluation and research in and out of the industry to look at our needs and what is available to solve those challenges. And we have ultimately landed on a company named Rubrik, who are originally out of Australia, but they have home offices on the West Coast in Canada, as well as a few offices in the United States, I think, and the UK. So we began evaluating what the organization obviously needed, as I said. So we spent a lot of time talking to the entire organization, each department on what their needs were, and then identified that the biggest needs fell within the clubs and associations, some internal operations, and obviously programming and services kind of lumping into the clubs and associations pieces, things like forms, finances, events management, organizational management. So we spent a great deal of time looking at other companies that do this, obviously for a living, and then a few companies that have newly entered the game to potentially build our own. Like I said, lots of information, lots of research that we've done. Ultimately, we've landed on this company. This company is self-described by themselves, but also by their clients that we've spoken with as always looking for customization within their clients' portfolio. So we've talked to a few different schools about some of the different customizations that they've created based on very specific niche needs. This company started as a couple of clubs and associations support staff who are having trouble keeping track of events, finances, the same stuff that we've traditionally prioritized, and they've put together this product. So we've spent an extensive amount of time with them and a few other companies, basically asking very, very nitty-gritty details. They're probably getting tired of all of our questions, but we've effectively gone to them with the laundry list of what we've really were promised through our relationship with Modern Campus and where we feel that that has missed the mark, and where we would like to see some change. And a lot of that has come with some customized builds included, which is where you'll see in the brief, in the appendix on the breakdown of the cost, you'll see an independent cost for a one-time setup fee of a front-facing finance management tool. Their current tool operates with accounting software like Sage or Microsoft's accounting software tool. We also wanted to include a front-facing, fully controllable tool that was built for us, custom built based on the things that we know our clubs and associations and student groups are traditionally looking to see, status of things like expense recs, all of those types of things. So there is a lot of information in that brief. We decided to show some pricing comparables based on, with the 5 years we've been with Modern Campus, the 3-year average, because that cost has been factored out of American dollars into Canadian. This offering with Rubrik is in Canadian dollars and it won't change. So there's a little bit more predictability there from a financial cost perspective, and it still comes in cheaper beyond our year one cost, seeing those custom builds. So there's lots of information in there. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any, but we've spent a fair amount of time going through, where are our big pain points? What are our industry partners using? So these were a partner of the Amicus C conference we attended in the summer. And we've been talking to a few other ones as well through some of our campus connections in and out of the industry. So happy to field any questions if anybody had anything specific, but.
I was gonna say, I remember you guys mentioning before, we were looking at different changes from the Nest, because obviously the Nest is great. So, I was just wondering, so I guess if we decide to go with Uber, the transition will probably happen during summer or what's.
Yep, the plan for us is to kind of, if successful here, the idea is that we would transition through the summer by beginning to remove components on the Modern Campus platform as they become available through the Rubrik product. A lot of the information a lot of the tools that we would be using are iframeable and and programmable out to our student union website specifically. So we would have the same access of directory. There wouldn't be this massive redirect of where clubs would have to go, that kind of stuff. It would all be as seamless as it was in previous application usage. And yeah, the idea would be that we would naturally transition, let our contract expire with Modern Campus. We would retain our information, pull all of our data out of the system, and effectively move on. We have, for reference, we have worked with Modern Campus on a number of occasions to discuss some of the challenges that we've seen, namely in, slower, non-existent platform access, countless big bugs, that kind of stuff, and talking to them about some of the things that we wanted to see in a renewed contract with them. And there just wasn't, there was a very cookie cutter feeling, I guess is the way to put it, where this was their product, and you either wanted to use it or you didn't. Whereas Rubrik was, this is a custom bespoke build based on your policies and procedures. And that was something that excited a few of our staff members on our team. So.
You said it's gonna cost like a little bit more than what we're paying right now. So, is the money like allocated from a certain budget, or are you just like from money in and planning on expensive?
So I can answer that. The purpose of the brief today is to kind of get your permission to kind of enter into negotiation. The budget, it won't hit any of this year's operational budget. It'll be built into next year's budget. So when we present the budget to you guys in April, you'll see it as part of the 10K report.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? No?
Have we seen like Rubrik's products, implemented in like other universities, like whether universities use it, or is it like entirely different?
Sorry, some of that audio cut out. Would you mind repeating that? Sorry about that.
Right, have we seen Rubrik's products being implemented elsewhere? So do other universities use it as well? And does it work as seamlessly, or is it just
Yeah, so I spoke with the director of student engagement at the University of Fraser Valley, who were one of their first Canadian clients. And I just talked to them about not necessarily the product itself, but what was their experience with the people, how receptive were they to, we didn't really like the way this looked in the demo. Can we change this? That kind of stuff. Those were things that we were finding very much with our conversations with Presence. There was a lot of exceptionalities in the way that they handled their customer service, we felt. And like I said, we got a little bit of that take it or leave it kind of feeling. So those were some major questions I had with the director at Fraser Valley, and they were more than complimentary about the way that it was kind of created. They basically said that they came in, took our policies and procedures, forms, those types of things, and effectively built something based on our feedback. They were also using another platform provider, not the one that we currently are, but they had a very similar relationship with them. So they went in with very specific needs, and screenshots and all that kind of stuff to show exactly how they wanted their approvals to go and forms management and that kind of stuff. And these folks basically just said, yeah, we're going to custom build you something that's going to look like this. They were given the opportunity to kind of incorporate their colors, logos, etc., and choose what was iframed out into their website and what was left in the platform itself, so they could customize their student experience. So.
To add on to that a little bit, another one of Rubrik's current clients is the Student Union for University of British Columbia, Okanagan. I have a friend who's a VP for that student union right now. I had a brief conversation with her. They implemented it this year, to my understanding. By all accounts, they've had a pretty smooth experience. Obviously, it's a curve of a new system, but she said they've had a great experience so far, that it's meeting all of their needs. So, from what the limited conversations I've had, seem like good so far as well.
We can trust in that.
Hopefully.
And we're admittedly a little bit gun shy because of some of the challenges that we faced with Modern Campus and some of their staff, some better than others. But we've also, we've been very upfront with exactly those things with Rubrik to just kind of say like, here's something that will ultimately be a big problem for us. If this isn't something that you folks can't do, we're going to have to find a different solution. And their answers have been either we have that, we had to do that here last year or whatever it was. And if there have been some specific pieces that haven't looked exactly like what Jason or Alia have wanted, they've said that we're going to build it completely custom for you. So, and their build timelines are no different than what our implementation would be if we were working with another company. That was another concern that we had was just, will this customization take 8 months kind of thing? And it's not. We should be done well before the middle of the summer so that we're able to be in. Our contract would be dated through the May 2025. So financially we wouldn't be impacted, but we could start, effectively giving them our information that we would need for them to build and customize.
So for the customizations, are there like add-on prices or are they just like one price that comes in the contract and that's it? You don't have to like, pay additional every time we ask them to customize something or change something on the product.
Yeah, if we go to them with anything beyond what you see in the brief here, there would be a customization cost, or they've got different modules that we can add to this. They typically range from $4,000 to $5,000 or $4,000 to $6,000 Canadian. Their customization costs tend to be around $500 to $5,500 per. So our approach here has been, their platinum package that's listed in the cost breakdown at the 20,009 basically gives us everything that we need except for an incredibly customized financial tool, which we want to go line by line and have them build for us, which is why you saw that customized cost included in there. And then the SSO integration, which just allows us to build, to use Laurier credentials so we don't have to worry about importing, bunches of information and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, any questions?
So you're gonna make the motion, which is at the top of the brief. Second, and away you go.
All right, can I get a motion that the board of directors authorizes the operations team to enter into a contract with Rubrik to start work on a new student engagement platform? Motion by Director Solo, seconded by Director Spiritu. Any discussion on the matter? No. All right, we move into voting. All those opposed, all those abstaining, and all those in favor. Vote passes 0-0 to 9. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
We move on to the club's gala catering at our budget.
This one should be quick, more of an FYI for you folks. The club's teams asked for a slight increase in their budget for their catering for their year-end gala, just based on increased cost and then some changes they're trying to make to the event. The initial budget was at $8,000. Like the club's Alia has special projects money she's going to cover the difference with. But with the increased cost, it's getting close to that $10,000 mark. Because it wasn't on the initial 10K report. Just wanted to give folks a heads up. Current cost estimates have it at like 98, so we're not going to break the 10,000 threshold. But mostly just giving folks an FYI because we are getting close to that number and it wasn't in the initial report. The details are in the brief, and the invoices are there as well. If folks have questions, happy to answer them. But yeah, just a heads up.
I'm just curious, do you guys have to like pay for it?
We
Pay for staff and cleaning.
But it's not like the club is like.
It's pretty close to.
Oh,
the same.
yeah.
Also, so it said that you guys are speaking to 50 people. Is that like people that are invited or just the average number based on like turnout?
Average number based on the last few years. Any member of a club or association is invited. Generally, we don't see the entirety of every executive team show up. So rough estimate based off last year, the way they've generally run that event, it's been standing room, so there's flexibility in what that looks like.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Are you deciding to?
Generally, it's free admission.
Any
So yeah, we have a budget, so we cover the costs. It's basically a version of volunteer appreciation for our club system. So no cost.
And why did you avoid the alcohol drinks?
Couple reasons. Operationally, it makes it tough to have an event that isn't 19 plus, that includes alcohol sales. Based on our hospitality team's risk assessment and stuff right now, it requires a fenced in area around the bar, which is, we did last year. It just, we affectionately call it bar jail. Affectionately, of course. So the team decided to forego the security and fencing and operational costs that come with it, to allow it to be open to all students, without having to go through that whole stuff. If we wanted to avoid the cost and have booze, it would have had to be 19 plus. We want every club ever be able to access it.
It's just like interesting because like the price for the mocktails are only like 70 cents cheaper than alcohol drinks. So
Which
it's
is,
like,
yeah.
who's making that price?
It's largely in line with what prices are at, like at Will's, if you get it mocked up compared to an alcoholic drink. So, yeah, not dissimilar from the kind of standard hospitality pricing.
Thanks. Is there anyone else have any comments or questions with that? No? All right, thank you, Ben. I'm not too sure why the careers or networking events on here unless someone else is gonna speak about it. I think that's cool. No,
I
okay.
think it was maybe on as a follow-up last.
Oh, maybe.
But Tony, do you want to do it a
I'll
little
give
bit?
you some info there if you'd like. So just as a heads up, and Gabby, I haven't connected with you yet, just because, apologies, Chair Russo, I have not connected with you yet directly on this one. I've been waiting for an update from the person we're looking to bring into this session. So I'm just waiting for them to give me some availability and details so I could chat with you a little more about what that looks like. Sorry, my dog is wanting to say hello here. So the idea here is that we do this typically every year with our outgoing executive team. Just for those wondering, more of a transferable skills conversation and a connection to the Career Center about networking, about how to use some of your transferable skills as your role in your roles, not just as board members, but as stewards of the organization. An idea of what you're actually using and what you're actually getting out of your time, and how to be able to talk a little bit more confidently about that, and connect that to some of your different career aspirations as you move along. So we've been working with Devin Kelly, one of our former presidents and CEOs, as she has been working in the recruitment field for the last, I think it's been at least 5 to 6 years. Not necessarily university recruitment, more employment recruitment. And she's kind of come back through some of our conversations with Ben's team this year, talking through some of the challenges that she faced, not only as a president and CEO, but then translating some of those things into her experiences in the sector and what she wishes that she would have been able to see through her experience and talk about with her team and those types of things. So we're hoping to replicate a conversation for the board at a time that makes sense for everybody. Like I said, just waiting on some confirmation of availability for Devin.
Yeah, I know Phil mentioned it like before that we probably be something like combined with the student union. So, yeah, we're not like in a rush to do it anyway. Sounds good. Yeah, does anyone else have any like comments or questions about that? All right, I think that's it then. That was our last item on the agenda. Any announcements? I know Director Teddy, you guys said you might come to Waterloo or in the next board meeting. So hopefully you guys can come for that. If not, we'll see you in March though, March 10th. So hopefully you guys will have that meeting though. Action items. All right. So, can I get a motion that the board of directors adjourn the February 10th, 2025 meeting? Motion by Director Lehecka, seconded by Director Tariq. Any discussion on the matter? No. All right, we can move into voting. All those opposed, all those abstaining, and all those in favor. Vote passes 0 to 9. Thank you, everyone. I was gonna
Thanks,
say
folks.
we could go to dessert.